One of the most common questions I get asked from people moving to Birmingham is this: Zach, do I want the house in Hoover or the location and the school reputation in Vestavia Hills? And that sounds like a simple question, but it's really not, because if you pick the wrong one for your actual lifestyle, you could end up adding hours of traffic to your week, paying more in taxes than you expected, or buying a house that checks the location box but needs way more updating than you planned for. And wait until we get to round 2, because I'm gonna show you why Hoover's county line can completely change the monthly payment conversation. So today we're putting Hoover and Vestavia Hills head to head in 5 rounds: affordability, taxes, commute, schools, and lifestyle. And by the end, you should have a much clearer idea of which Birmingham suburb actually fits your budget, your commute, your home style, and your day-to-day life. So let's break it down. I'm Zach, your friend in real estate right here in the Birmingham Metro. I help people just like you relocate to places like Hoover and Vestavia every single week. And maybe you're just getting started on your home search, or maybe you're a little further down the road. Check the link in the description and you can click on that free strategy call, set it up at your own convenience. But we're gonna go ahead and dive into round 1. So the biggest difference between Hoover and Vestavia is what your money actually buys. In most cases, Hoover's gonna give you more house for your money. And that doesn't mean Hoover is cheap. Hoover is still one of the more expensive and competitive suburbs in the Birmingham area. But compared to Vestavia, your budget usually stretches further when it comes to square footage, garage space, newer construction, open floor plans, larger kitchens, and planned neighborhood amenities. So let's say you're shopping around the $500,000 to $700,000 range. In Hoover, depending on the neighborhood, that budget may put you into a larger home with 4 or 5 bedrooms, a finished basement, 2-car or 3-car garage, and maybe a neighborhood pool, sidewalks, walking trails, or other community amenities. You may be looking at homes built in the 1990s, 2000s, and 2010s, or even newer depending on the pocket. In Vestavia, that same budget may look completely different. You may be looking at an older ranch-style home, a split level, a more traditional floor plan, or a house where the location is great, but the kitchen, bathroom flooring, windows, or major systems may still need updating. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because people usually don't buy Vestavia just for the house. They buy Vestavia for the location. They want to be closer to Birmingham. They want to be quicker access to UAB, downtown, Homewood, Mountain Brook, and the central part of the metro. So round 1 really comes down to this: Hoover usually wins on the house, and Vestavia usually wins on the location. So if the home itself is a priority, so we're talking about square footage, garage space, newer construction, amenities, and layout, Hoover's probably going to give you more options. And if location's the priority and you're okay with an older home or giving up some square footage, Vestavia may be worth the premium. But before you call Hoover the better value, there's one hidden piece that can completely change the math: taxes. This is one of the biggest things buyers miss when they compare Hoover and Vestavia Hills. So Hoover crosses county lines. Part of Hoover is in Jefferson County and part of Hoover is in Shelby County. Vestavia Hills is primarily in Jefferson County. So that matters because your property tax situation can vary depending on the county, the city, the school district, the parcel, exemptions, and how the property is assessed. So when someone asks me what are property taxes like in Hoover, my answer is always which part of Hoover, because Hoover on the Shelby County side and Hoover on the Jefferson County side may not look the same from a property tax standpoint. And when you compare Hoover to Vestavia, this can change the monthly payment more than buyers expect. That's why you can't always compare only the list price. A $600,000 house in Hoover and a $600,000 house in Vestavia may not have the same monthly payment, so you need to compare the full picture here: purchase price, taxes, insurance, HOA, your commute, updates needed, maintenance, and long-term costs of ownership. This is where people get surprised. They fall in love with the kitchen, they fall in love with the neighborhood, and they fall in love with the photos, but they don't slow down and look at what the monthly payment actually becomes. And the monthly payment is where the real decision happens, because sometimes the house that looks more expensive up front may not be as different monthly payment wise as you thought. And sometimes the house that looks like the better deal may come with other costs that you weren't factoring in. So here's the line that I always tell buyers: check the parcel number before you fall in love with the kitchen, because the kitchen is emotional. The monthly payment, that's real. And if you're comparing Hoover versus Vestavia, taxes need to be a part of that conversation early, not after you're already under contract. So who wins round 2? Well, Hoover can have an advantage here depending on which side of Hoover you're looking at. But you gotta verify it by the actual property, and don't just assume. This is where the map lies to people. Because Hoover and Vestavia look close when you're staring at Birmingham on Google Maps, but they can feel completely different in real life. So Vestavia Hills usually has the advantage if you're commuting into the central Birmingham area. So if you work at UAB, downtown Birmingham, Sanford, Brookwood, Homewood, Mountain Brook, or the South Side, Vestavia can be extremely convenient depending on the exact neighborhood. Hoover is a little more complicated because Hoover is a lot larger. If you live in Bluff Park, your drive into Birmingham may be very manageable. If you live in River Chase, you may have quick access to I-65 and Highway 31. And if you live in Ross Bridge, you may love the neighborhood, but you're tucked further back in. And if you live in Greystone or the Highway 280 side of Hoover, then 280 traffic may become a major part of your routine depending on where you work. So when someone asks me, how long is the commute from Hoover? That question's too broad. Hoover from where? To where? At what time of day? Because Bluff Park to UAB is not the same as Ross Bridge to UAB. Same city name, different daily life. And this is one of the biggest mistakes relocation buyers make in Birmingham. They shop by mileage, but you need to shop by drive pattern. A house that's 12 miles away can feel worse than a house that's only 18 miles away if the route is worse. So before you buy a house, drive the commute at the actual time you would be driving it. Not Sunday afternoon, not 10:30 in the morning. Drive it from 7:30 or 8 o'clock a.m. Drive it around 5 p.m. See what it's actually going to feel like. Because that house might be perfect, but if the commute wears you out every single day, it may not even be the right fit. So who wins round 3? Well, for access to central Birmingham, Vestavia usually wins. But if your work, family, church, sports, or daily routine is already closer to Hoover, then obviously Hoover's gonna fit. Now let's talk about schools. And this is one of the reasons that both Hoover and Vestavia Hills stay in such high demand. Both school systems have strong reputations in the Birmingham area. Vestavia is often recognized as one of the highest ranked districts in Alabama. Hoover is also highly regarded and has a much larger district footprint. But the real difference is not just ranking, it's the structure and the feel. Vestavia is smaller and more centralized. Hoover is larger and more spread out. Vestavia has more of a centralized school identity, and Hoover has 2 major high schools, Hoover High School and Spain Park High School. That creates a completely different experience. So Hoover's size may offer more variety in extracurriculars, athletics, programs, and student opportunities. Vestavia may appeal to someone who wants a smaller district feel and a more centralized community identity. So the question isn't simply which one is better, the better question is which environment fits your family's priorities. And from a home buying standpoint, here's the most important thing. You don't need to assume the school zoning. Don't rely on a listing description. Don't rely on a third-party website. Verify the school zone directly with the district before you write an offer. This matters a lot around city boundaries and neighborhoods where buyers assume one thing and later realize something else. And if schools are one of your top priorities, that needs to be a part of the search from the beginning. You don't need to wait until after you've already fallen in love with the house. So who wins round 4? Well, Vestavia may appeal more to you if you want a smaller, centralized school system feel. Hoover may appeal more if you want a larger district with more scale, more programs, and more variety. But either way, verify the exact school path before you make a decision. Now this is where the decision becomes less about data and more about your actual day-to-day life. Hoover has the everything you need suburban lifestyle. It's bigger, it's more spread out, and it has more shopping, more restaurants, more big box convenience, more neighborhood variety, and more master plan community options. But that size is also the downside. Hoover can feel too spread out. You may technically live in Hoover and still be 15 to 20 minutes from another part of Hoover. But Vestavia feels different. And Vestavia has restaurants, shopping, grocery stores, and convenience, but it doesn't feel over commercialized like Hoover does. And for some people, that's exactly what they want. They don't want the biggest suburb. They want closer in, they want established, they want local restaurants, they want mature trees, they want to feel more connected to Birmingham. So lifestyle-wise, we gotta compare the two. Hoover gives you scale, Vestavia gives you centrality. Hoover gives you variety, Vestavia gives you established location. Hoover gives you big suburban convenience, Vestavia gives you that close-in suburb character. So the winner's not automatically Hoover, and it's not automatically Vestavia. The winner is the one that matches your actual daily routine, your budget, commute, house style, monthly payment, lifestyle. That's how you make the right decision. And if you're watching this because you're trying to figure out where to live in the Birmingham area, this is exactly what my team and I help people do every single week. We don't just send you the houses. We help you compare the neighborhoods, the commute, the monthly payments, the school zoning questions, and the trade-offs you might not see online. So if you're thinking about moving to Hoover, Vestavia Hills, or anywhere in the greater Birmingham area, you can schedule a free strategy call using that link in the description. Or just call or text the number that's on the screen. And if you got value from this video, go ahead and give me a like, and go ahead and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. And drop a comment and tell me which areas you want me to compare next. I'll see you in the next video.